To bin or not to bin? That is the question. Yeah, we're talking about recycling. We live in such a terrible throwaway society. In 2021, the UK government statistics showed that we sent 27.5 million tonnes of waste to landfill. That's in a year. We did recycle 44% of that, but we could still do so much more. So what does 27.5 million tonnes look like? Well, imagine what the biggest animal on the planet is. It's a blue whale. A blue whale weighs, on average, 150 tonnes. So we sent the equivalent of 185,000 blue whales to waste in 1 year. That's just this nation. That's not the world, that's just Great Britain. What's scary is there's only 15 to 25,000 blue whales actually on the planet. So we sent 9 times more to waste than there are animals on the planet. So I want you to think about recycling. I want to change your mindset to recycling. We all do our bit as it is. We save our cardboard and our plastic bottles and our glass and all that sort of thing. But we can actually do so much more. We can actually change people's lives and change the world if we change our mindset to recycling. I want you to all think about your own home. The possessions that you've got in your home now, that you've worked hard and you've saved up for. Perhaps it's your big flat screen TV or your games console. Air fryers are extremely popular, perhaps it's none of those. If it was my wife, it would be her unicorn collection. Or her babies. Babies, I mean her fluffy dogs. But what, for some reason, if you couldn't go home? You couldn't go home today, for some reason. Maybe there was a fire. You lost all your possessions and the insurance for some reason won't pay out. Maybe you're just struggling with covering all the bills. You can't pay the rent or the mortgage anymore and you lose your house. Maybe you just leave that abusive relationship and you have to start again afresh. So what happens? You end up having to move into either a hostel, couch surf on a family or friend's sofa, or worst case scenario, end up on the streets. But hopefully, you will then get allocated a property, or you find a property for yourself. It's either going to be a housing association or a private rental. But that property is going to be totally empty. When I mean empty, I mean concrete floors, bare walls, not even light bulbs in the light fittings. So now you're left with the predicament of, how do I furnish it? I either take out a loan, which is going to get yourself back into debt again, or you struggle on by with very little and hopefully slowly over the years build up enough so as to make it a proper home again. Well, I volunteer for a charity called Community Furniture Aid, which is a charity based in the South Wales Valleys. We've been operating 10 years, and what we do is we collect furniture that's donated by the lovely public. The community has really embraced it, and we've so far collected over 500 tonnes and saved that from going to landfill. Now that's either from house clearances, people that are downsizing, or perhaps you've just decided to change your colour scheme of your lounge or your bedroom, and so you want new items. So we collect all those bits and pieces, we put it together in what we call a furniture pack, and so far we've furnished 830 properties in the last 10 years and changed those people's lives. I'll give you an example. A few years ago, a lady was in a very extremely abusive relationship. She ran away and she was put up in a hostel. But she didn't have the confidence so as to live independently. So she stayed in that hostel for a couple of years until they finally built up her confidence enough so as to move on. They found her a property, and we were then contacted so as to say, would we go and furnish it for her? So we turned up, and there was this poor lady bawling her eyes out because she was standing in this flat that was echoing because there was nothing in it, and she couldn't imagine how she could possibly live like that. Well, 4 hours later, after a whole load of volunteers helped move everything in, she was sitting down on the sofa with a cup of tea and a biscuit in a fully furnished flat. And we went to say goodbye, and she then started crying again. What have we done now? She came over and she gave every volunteer in turn a hug. And she turned around and she said, thank you so much because you've given me a home, a safe space, and something that I can actually call my own. So, recycling changed her life. And I want to try and get people so as to see that all of the items that you either take to the tip or you just don't think of anymore and you just think, oh, I'll get rid of that, it can actually change somebody else's life. One item can change a life. One person can do that. One final example. We were called out to a family home because the children were sleeping on the floor. They didn't have beds. Sadly, that's still going on in the 21st century. But we deal with that. But while we were there, we noticed that the eldest son was doing his homework on the kitchen dining table. His other siblings were charging around, bumping into the table and causing chaos, as kids do. And we asked the family whether the son's bedroom was big enough so as to cater for a desk, because we knew we'd got one in stock. Well, we ended up having to rearrange his whole bedroom, but we managed to fit a desk in there for him and thought nothing more of it. And 4 years later, the mother actually rang us up, and she was so happy. She turned around and she said, my son is the first one in our family so as to qualify, so as to go to university. And she was so happy she had to ring us up just so as to tell us that. She didn't need to, but it was wonderful, and it was great feedback for us. So I want you also as to think about recycling, hopefully in a different way. One person can recycle, a group can recycle. We can change the world and make it better. And if nothing else from today, if you just think about this strange person talking about blue whales, wearing a funky jacket, and you then think, right, yes, I can change, I can make a difference, then some small groups can actually help change the world. Thank you very much.